Hey guys, so this is going to be interesting because this is kind of newer than what I usually do. And let me pull up something. I might not have done this correctly. Let's just find something chill. So, oh wait, that's not gonna work at all, is this? So, Bluestar told me that he was gonna post this early today, and I thought it was gonna be hilarious. And so my first thought is, what's the next cringiest thing to making a battleship collection tier list? Reacting while also doing such thing. So yeah, I'm just gonna watch in the background.
Hello.
And kind of look at this on my own.
Tier list on the Battle Network 6 chips.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go through these myself.
I'm gonna be ranking them.
And let's see. How do I go through this? It's at a row below.
I always use it's in every single one of my folders.
So let's.
Great being it fits my.
It's at an F tier.
It's a great chip, but it's not in everything I use. Usable is it's good, like it's a great chip, but it's not something I use all the time. Alright is chips
purple.
that are they're mid
Or,
chips, you know.
Let's do
chips that are good.
like a lighter green, I guess. Oh no, wait, that's the same
They would be
green.
in other people's S tier. Would be not my style.
There we go. Now it kind of matches the color palette.
Chips that I think just aren't very fun for either players. I'm like, I don't want to deal with that.
Oh, this is so weird. So I'm gonna kind of rate these on my own personal opinions. I'm not gonna label them by how usable they are, or well, that's kind of how usable they are, and how.
But then these two would be not strong enough. Like they're good chips, but they're just
Yeah, kind of how powerful they are.
Enough damage to be.
So like, and these aren't in order either. So.
Out bad is gonna be for those chips that are they're just awful. Don't use it.
Okay.
Thunder's a good one. There we
That's
go.
fair. What?
Thunder and just flat out bad.
I'm sorry?
I don't think I've come across a single time where I've been like, oh, Thunder would have been really good in that situation.
I'm sorry, just roll the clip of me fucking roll the clip of me just using it against Bluestar.
Got like HP bug 12 or something.
Why did you do that to yourself?
Oh. Take these. What? Oh my gosh.
In BN4, there was a clip, not a clip, but a there was a time that I used it against Bluestar or Beta 4, and it was actually really useful when you can replace it as your charge shot. Like, it's definitely really useful. I think the chip itself is really bad in BN6, but I think that's mostly because they nerfed it. Since BN4, I think, like, he was getting upwards of, like, 100 electric damage before you had souls added onto it. And it was just this tracking death ball that didn't leave the arena, so that was pretty cool. Is it not capturing, like, any?
This could go in there too.
Oh, that's so funky. I don't like that.
So the Vulcan chips. Vulcan is these are gonna go and not strong enough. Vulcan 3 hits 5 times, dealing.
Let me see if I can pull up the standard chip list on my phone.
It's
Without even looking at
bad.
all of these, I'm gonna say number ball is F. Oh wait, not number ball. That's not what I wanted to type.
You might be
Snake.
able to get
Snake is really bad in BN6.
but
You might have seen our video talking about Snake Man
it doesn't
and its
hold
original interpretation, where you could add like wood plus 40 to it. But you still need to have like only whole panels on your side, which is pretty crazy.
or you elect charge it. This chip is
And
just
then
ridiculous.
I got number 6 chips.
So Super Vulcan is
Not sure I agree with Airshot being flat out bad. It's probably
great.
one of the. I would say it's like
Spreader.
bad for its damage, but I would say that it's one of the best counter hit tools in the game.
It's gonna be not strong enough. Of course, this is all from the viewpoint of PvP. So
Oh, it's from PvP perspective. Okay.
right here.
Well, even then, right? Like,
But there's gonna be a couple that are that'll.
M cannon's alright. I don't like that.
I've never really used Spreader. I'm gonna put it in alright tier simply because of H burst. If you're able to hit somebody with an H burst, that's
H
like
burst?
600
I mean, I guess that's a real thing.
or you're
Alright,
paralyzing them
summon
with it,
black
and it comes
1,
out
and the
really
code's not
fast.
listed. Jeez.
So that in alright tier I think is fair. The tank cannons, and this is all not in like any specific order.
God, me syrup so bad.
And when they're there, they're there.
Tank
cannon
can.
is great. This is an absolutely but it's not.
Oh, that's not gonna work,
no,
is
I
it?
think we'll put this in S tier. This is our first S tier tank cannon.
That sounds about right.
Coming back down, let's see here. We have the Gundel Soul chips, and this is where the early game chips are. They're good. They're all good. If you want to just actually, we're gonna put this up here.
Gundel Soul? I mean, it's in a really good code, so it's really hard to do badly with Gundel Soul.
And I say that as I put them up in great.
The only difference in the Gundel Soul chips is how I believe how long they last. I don't know if they necessarily drain your health faster.
They go through shields. They go through barriers.
I really just need any.
Yo-yo. I'm gonna put it in all right. Yo-yo's not a.
Yo-yo is mitigated by super armor and nothing else, and this isn't the ROM I wanted to
Not
pull up.
bad.
And by ROM, I mean cartridge.
Be able to hit somebody at the right, like you get them on flinching or something. That's not too bad. This fire burner.
Finally got it pulled up. Jeez.
These down here. And
I am
it's the
such a mess.
crack effect that they give.
For what chip?
The being able to crack.
Fire burner. Yeah, I think it's kind of a worse chip in general.
being able to kind of
Like the fact that it doesn't destroy panels and that it consumes grass panels instantly. It can be a really hard chip to land.
because of that.
I guess if you're constantly showing your opponent that you're going to use a chip, though, like, it can definitely be something interesting like that.
Fantastic chip for decrossing.
My god, where is Summon Black?
Mainly charge cross.
There we go. So it comes in E, I code, and P code. So, I code's really bad. Like, the problem with all of these Summon Black chips is that all of them are very high base power and they're neutral. So all of them can be beast charged. All of them can kind of, like, just have their own natural ways of dealing with opponents. It's also sword damage. So it does double against Tengu. It could be really good against Tengu builds. I think P code makes it really good, so I would probably put this in B tier.
Not really my style.
Like E code and P code are just very good codes. Like P code is a very good Falzar code, and E code is a very good Gregor code.
Especially if you're trying to aqua charge it.
No.
To get, like, I think
For Summon Black 2, we have H, O, and V code, so that's interesting. V code, like, all of these are exceptionally good codes. H is probably more well known for its freezing capabilities, but in O code, you have access to things like Recover 300, you have access to Guardian.
Bluestar is great.
It does 200 damage instead, which is just really good. I'd still say it's B tier because you kind of have to look for a particular strategy or arena for it. So it's not necessarily the best. But then some of like 3 I would put in A tier. I think its damage and the fact that you can beast charge it mitigates a lot of the unbalanced effects around it.
It's called the Bub Thunder. Bubble Thunder,
It's definitely interesting.
you trap
Why would you put all of the Dull Thunders in? I mean, I guess because you can always combo them, so like that makes sense. Yeah, they are great.
times 2 damage. And
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. You can aqua charge. It works really well in both Gregor and.
Wait, did you really put Tank Hit in 3 in S tier and not the other Tank Hit? What?
Hit them with the
Okay.
Bubble Star.
Going next, Number Ball, S tier.
In Electros, you get the
It's probably better in mod cards
Thunder
in
chips,
general,
Elect chips.
but Number Ball is just such a good chip. You have the chance to do, I believe, 5 balls of whatever your HP pool is at. But even then, you can run HP Bug. I think Chunky Build is a very, very broken build right now for Navicasts in Battle Network, mostly because no one has really a way to deal with it.
On top of that,
You have to land all of your damage options, or you kind of just run out of ways to deal with your opponent.
advances in the game for PvP.
I'm going to try my best not to look at program advances, because program advances are just naturally really poor.
Combo stuff.
They're just not good.
If I'm remembering correctly, Elect Pulse 2 has this weird thing about it where
It drags you forward.
doesn't have, or it has
And it,
very,
like,
very
locks you.
little end lag compared to these two.
Hmm.
So you can rifle chip attacks off with this into something else, something other crazy like a tank cannon or
I
whatever.
didn't know that.
I don't think you can do this two specifically, but you can lead this into another attack very, very easily.
Oh my gosh.
Pulse 2 doesn't come with D-cut, so you can't do.
I am fast forwarding now.
It would,
I don't know why it's taking me so long to find this
very,
chip.
very good. Next is Meme Shot, Corn Shot.
Alright, so Fire hit 1, we got D, E, and F code. D code is kind of slept on. I think the fact that it's an F code is really good. It's definitely mitigated by some of it. I think fire chips in general
Moves that grass panel behind.
are really bad, but also its low damage value. I would probably put it in D tier.
Follow up.
Like, on top of the fact that it only hits one panel and it hits exactly where the opponent is, meaning that if the opponent is not moving, it'll hit them, but if they're constantly moving, it won't hit them.
A lot of experience. I don't use these very often.
Fire hit in general is great for counter hits, and a lot of very skilled players have showed me. And honestly, I've explored it myself, where you try to get your opponent to line up a charge shot, and you counter with a fire hit. It's a great way to get a counter hit and get some extra damage off. Like, really good chip in general for that. Fire hit 2 is totally different. Fire hit 2 kind of has decent damage, but like 120 damage, and it only hits one panel, and it's only within, I think, like 2 columns.
Risky honey. Another.
Maybe it's 3 columns, but it's still column locked in general, even if it only goes back 3, which can be really bad.
Any attack in the game, as long as it's not a fire attack.
It can be RS and T code, and all of them are broken codes. Actually, from codes, a little.
Doesn't matter.
No, because especially because of the codes, like you gotta do more damage to be able to really be usable. Fire hit 3, I would at least put in C tier. Not only is it in B code, but it's in A code. And they're great combo codes for a neutral mana build. So if you can get a humor bug or a counter hit with fire hit 3, then it's just really good in general.
These two versions are not bad.
Which versions?
The only weakness to them, of course, being the fire chips. It's not something you really need to worry too much about.
Black corn shot.
Rolling log, I'm gonna put in usable.
Yeah, the problem with rolling log is it's a low power wood chip. Oh, bees are broken.
You don't see it too often.
Literally S tier, one of the strongest chips in the game.
It's what I think you could really take advantage of with
Burn square. Oh, I found it.
It's a great way to deal.
Yeah, this is another thing. Like you have to like aim it, but
'cause
I think that's
you
fine.
go into elect cross or race cross, you just
I think compared to most things, it's kind of just
whip out your charge.
not really that great. So I'd probably put it in D. A lot of the fire chips in this game are bad, just in general. I say looking at Heat Dragon.
Here, hold these real quick, because if you're in the middle row, you're not going to be dodging anything.
Burn Square 2 is a bit better because of the codes it's in. It's in D code and M code, which gives both of these codes some fire coverage, and that could be really useful against Falzar builds in general, because Tomahawk can be really oppressive. Especially if you're doing like an aggressive Tomahawk build. So having some anti-Tomahawk coverage, if you want to manipulate stuff like grass panels, can be really interesting.
The damage on it isn't anything.
So I think for coverage reasons, I would definitely put it in C tier.
Some kind of weird codes. Let's see. It's LL.
And then Burn Square 3 has really broken codes. I would probably put this in
And it deals
C tier still.
130 damage.
Like it has E code, it has O code, it has Z code. But the problem is it's still a 140 base power chip, and because it's dimming, you can't boost it with Heat Cross, and you can't charge it with... Actually, can you charge it with Charge Cross? I don't know, but even then, you would have to sit there and charge it. 140 base power, and you're not even cracking panels or anything. Spreader...
This is another one of those slept-on chips. I think
again, I'm not going to rate it based on chips, but it basically spreads around where they shoot it. Yeah, there it is. And it's just really low damage. It doesn't hit that often. If you're going for a counter hit, there's just way better options. I don't even think it's that fast of a buster shot.
130, which is what Iron.
Meteors, I would put in B tier.
It's just better. Plus,
Because it has it's only an art code, so I don't even have to think about it.
it's plus 30 damage. So it's
But basically the idea is that the closer up on panels you are, the harder it is for your opponent to be able to...
wouldn't you be using a barrier?
They basically take more meteors to the face. So in like an attack plus build, you can really get some high damage off.
Upset. Air hockey.
Hockey!
I'll put it in not my style.
There you go. That's correct. That is the 100% correct.
Really good. I'm gonna move to this.
The Jigoku Hockey is one of the best program advances in BN4, but it's not as great in stuff like
Air hockey can be
BN6.
really good if you land it on the right spot, and you can like ground charge it as well to get those extra rock damage.
Rock damage.
I don't think it's nearly as good as it was in 4, but yeah, air hockey. Drill arm I'm gonna put up in normal style as well. There's been a couple.
Kind of gotta move at the pace, but basically, yeah, you have to have area advantage in a format where there's a huge amount of area control options to get rid of you. So it kind of mitigates a lot of the options. Plus, it's a fire chip. Plus, it's only 40 damage per. Wait, is it 40 damage or is it 80?
Actually, we're gonna put Tornado on.
No, yeah, it's 40.
It's
Aqua Needle's pretty bad. I would put it in D tier regardless. And then let me look at Aqua Needle 3.
it can deal a good
It does like 80 damage, and you can
160,
use it for Master Cross.
but
So it has some coverage option. Because the whole thing with A code is that it's a coverage option build, right? Like, you can build Master Cross or you can build otherwise.
drugged up older brother.
You can also do Aqua Needle L code, so you can do like a quick uninstall. You can do a U code build for Life Order build.
There's not really a reason you shouldn't run.
With White Capsule, you can actually land all 3 Aqua Needles, but that kind of depends on White Capsule, so that doesn't necessarily make it better.
In front of Mega Man.
Blizzard Ball's a super gimmicky thing. I would probably put in C tier. Objects are a lot better in this game than people think they are. Like Sensor, but I'll get to that in a bit. But it's also Aqua damage coverage,
It deals the
so it can really mess up opponents that aren't paying attention. Sensor goes immediately into C tier. It's 100 damage, but it forces the opponent to move.
aside from code.
They either move to stay in the area where the sensor won't hit them, or they move to try to hit the sensor. Even better, sometimes they'll use a chip to get rid of the sensor. And that's kind of the goal, right? There's like, you kind of want to stop your opponent from getting options. So comes in W code, O code, and J code, which all are amazing codes, literally broken. I'm kind of tempted to put it in.
So good.
You know what? I would put Sensor 1 in B tier. I might be crazy, but I think with those 3 codes under its belt, like, those are 3 very aggressive codes
It's
that have so much like late game potential. Like, W is such an aggressive code. J,
this bomb flat out bad.
you could say that like it's bad for J code because you kind of want to run like stuff like Death Pulse,
You're able to
but
lock down your
you can also make it over holes, so you can kind of use it for whatever build you want.
it's not good.
And then Sensor 2,
It deals 50
it's only a bit more damage, but it only covers N, U, and Y,
shot.
which
Mega Man charge shot at
isn't that great,
and that's just one chip attack.
but it's still okay.
On the other hand,
I think it kind of
Big Bomb
deserves to go in D tier because in N code, especially, like, you have a lot of close range options. In U code, like, you're not really setting up for anything in U code by using this chip.
White Cap on.
There's nothing you can like semi immediately do unless you have maybe like another like zoning chip that you can set up. So it's kind of made a little bit worse by that, right? Oh, did I mean to put that in D tier? No, it's in C tier because it's still a usable chip. It's just like not great. Same with Sensor 3. Like, it's a zoning chip for K code and Q code, but Q code is kind of just a subsidiary code for people who want to use
The bomb, your
stuff for kernel force,
landing in
and it doesn't necessarily make the chip
move out of the way.
better. It's just kind of a chip you can run in that build.
Flash bombs. Fantastic.
Actually, you know what? There is the Grab Revenge combo,
We're gonna put
which, if you don't know, the Grab Revenge combo is you can place sensor,
realize they blind.
and if someone moves into the area with the sensor in front of them and you use Grab Revenge, for every, it's like a race beam
Fantastic chips.
where they'll get hit for every panel they move along.
Black bomb.
Um,
No.
yeah.
Where to put black bomb?
Boomer, JK and T code. So J code's really
Put
good.
it in usable.
T code's really good.
Because
I would say that
I've used black bomb with
C tier?
friends and actually gotten it
great for coverage options, great for general damage. There is a spot on the field where it doesn't hit your opponent, and a lot of the time it's a spot that people kind of try to sit to avoid charge shots. I think High Boomer is definitely B tier. Like it's B code, A code that's riddled with high power fire chips like Blast Menace P, Fire Hit 3, and it kind of enables those chips to do a lot more damage. It also comes in L code and V code, so you can pair it with a White Capsule for a Super Vulcan setup, or you could pair it with uninstall. Just really broken. M Boomer's a lot more damage.
Grass seed's great for combos.
It comes in I code, which kind of hurts it a lot, but I would say it's an A tier. Like, the damage difference is 70 total, so it's not that much like Summon Black, but it gives an amazing wood option besides B's in M code, and in W code it can be super useful for someone who's not running a Gregor build, so they might not have Slash Cross. Lance is super situational, but in an area aggressive build it can be really good, so I would probably put that in C tier. It's not a bad ship, but it could be used for some stuff. Heat Dragon is best tier. It's a fire coverage option that comes right above the opponent, and it covers like 6 panels. It's crazy good. And it can uninstall the opponent, and it can be fire coverage for T code, and it can uninstall from R code. Just broken. Same thing for Elect Dragon. Great codes, A, L, and V. And in V code, that is elemental coverage. So that's just even better. Aqua Dragon, same thing. It can be used in freeze builds in both H and S and P code. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's all of the freeze code builds. So it's a really good for Falzar builds. Wood Dragon can be paired with Heat Dragon, so in general that's just really good. G, T, and V, really good codes, kind of enables it a little bit. Golem Hit 1 is IK and Y. It's kind of D tier. Like, it's low damage. It can stop harassment from Slash Cross, but the codes themselves are so bad that you would like struggle to pair it with anything. On the other hand, Golem Hit 2 is B tier. It does 50 more damage. It almost does 200 damage. It's breaking damage for D code. That isn't Dustman, thank God. It comes in P code, a code that loves messing with the opponent's area, so they might try to be up close, or they might try to be up far. You never know. It comes in U code, so you can be really aggressive with that barrier. And then Golem Hit 3, I would still put in B rank, just because like it comes in HM and V code. Great codes, but you still have to play around with the spacing. So there's that. I don't know why these are so much out of order.
I think is slept on a lot. It could be really
Justice 1 up to B tier.
Neo Vario and Vira Sword.
That's fair.
My brain is too square for these.
I would say they're good ships, but I think they're kind of limited in their capacity because especially in mod cards, there's a lot of situations in which you get uninstalled, so you could probably just get hit out of the variable sword command.
They can be really good.
Anything interesting here? Bamboo sword and elixir are usable. I resent that elixir placement. The elixir's broken, and bamboo sword's a really good wood coverage option in W code.
Being able to punish your opponent for dealing damage to you, if you're able to get
Yeah, I would say Mermos is A tier.
one of the most satisfying things.
It's a really hard ship to land, and people can just walk out of it most of the time.
Machine Sword is all these swords. Machine Sword, Element Sword,
I'm next to the ear spin, so I'm just gonna do the ear spins.
and Assassin Sword. They're all kind of weird. I haven't used them too much. I've used Element sword a couple times, and it was okay.
Air Spin 1 comes in G code, and it could be a great wind option if you're not running Windwreck. You can also boost it with Tengu for some combos. Same with R code. It also comes in F code. So I think it would be a great C tier option. Great T code option as well for this, and it also comes in A code.
They're not flat out bad. They're not.
NO and T code, really broken.
We're gonna
It's kind of mitigated a little bit because
all three of these, their area, they can be
because it'll spit out more if it's a higher program. It doesn't do higher damage, so it's kind of weird.
especially.
I would say it stays the same because like it doesn't necessarily always guarantee that you're going to do more hits.
Or if you are, you're going to be in your back row. And,
People are gonna hate me for this, but Wind and Fan both B tier. Both of them are great options for manipulating where the opponent is going to be. Both of them are great options for pulling at auras. I think that they're not great for dealing with life aura because the opponent will always be more aggressive, or they'll be in a stance to be more aggressive when they have life aura up. So usually they'll be in a position where they can handle a wind or a fan. But these two can also set up for a lot of chips, like the dragons or the summon, not the summon blacks, but it can set up for, what was I going to say? Golem Head, that was what I was going to say. Magnum has some broken codes, FLW, literally S tier. Literally a broken chip. It does 130 base power, cursor damage, so it goes through anti-damage, anti-navi, and fucking totally annihilates them, and it destroys the panels. Plus, in 6, it's really slow. Circo Gun, kind of is the same realm as Magnum. It doesn't destroy panels, though, and it only goes around the area. And it's really, really hard to land, timing-wise. So, it's just really situational, even though it has some great codes. Rock Cube, I'll put it in B tier. You could use it with Dust Cross, you can use it to prevent the opponent from taking your area, and you could use it to stop the opponent from using Grab Revenge. It's a great anti-Grab Revenge chip for a really aggressive, like, close-up build. Like, a lot of people don't expect Rock Cube to be that useful. Like, even if it gets destroyed super quickly, you can also knock it into your opponent's area to hit them for, like, 200 damage. Little Boiler. I'm just gonna throw all of these in here. Like, ignoring their codes. So the way throwable objects work is, so there are objects like Sensor or Rock Cube where you place the object in front of you. But then there's others that are known as throwables. And Little Boiler, Bulk Bomb, and Voodoo Doll have the longest end lag out of all of the throwing chips, which heavily impacts their viability. On top of that, you have to attack the kettle in order to get it to explode, which will explode in an area, but if the opponent moves under where the kettle is moving, which, by the way, again, it also hangs in the air longer, then they can just take damage, and they'll also be invisible for a little bit. So it's just a really, really bad chip. Air Raid has some good codes, so it's definitely interesting. Air Raid 2 is a little better.
Not strong enough because it's 160.
Because it has some better codes, OT and Y. So you can run some gimmicky plus builds in like a T and an O code because there's a bunch of chips you can buff. Typically you're going to see that more with Fighter Plane 3, but because it's kind of an all-in build, you're never really going to see that resolve as much. Time Bomb is a chip that does a ton of damage if it goes off, but it also places right in front of you. And it also has only, like, what, 10 HP? And you have to wait 3 seconds. 3 seconds is a long time in Battle Network, okay? Like, it's not that simple. Mine, it comes in amazing codes. I would actually argue it's A tier, and not because it becomes an A code. I actually argue that because It can hit the opponent while it's invisible, and it also zones the opponent in a way that you enjoy. I think it's a really good chip, but I think the fact that they have to land on an exact spot does rely on RNG a lot. It does make it really difficult. It can hit your opponent while invisible, though, so I think that's really valuable.
It's alright.
Oh, tank cannons, right. So I guess I'll go back and do those real quick. Tank cannon in general is a really good chip, so it's really interesting. Okay, you know what? Let me just skip to the end, and I'm just going to see his list and whether it makes me angry or not.
2 does 120.
Okay, so what do we got here? Seeds are in great. I'm not sure how I agree with that, because if you stand under them, then you change them. And also, yeah, Sanctuary exists, so that's another reason why it's not really that great. Or is that Holy Panel? I think that's Holy Panel, actually. Bug Bomb is bad. Oh my god, I know what chip I'm using next time we're playing. Armadillos actually aren't that bad. For chips that go down the column, it's kind of faster, and it's very quick breaking damage. I think Ryehead's faster, so it's not really a comparison too much. Tornado's alright. Yeah, I agree with that. Rock Cube's alright. Most people would say that. Triple Crack Shot, not alright. I think that's bad. If it's not a program that you're using, then it's really bad. Like, there's way better hole creating options that also do a lot more damage. So, you know, that... And also the fact that, depending on the one that you're using, it's going to have less or more likelihood to hit. So, you know, that... Swords are bad. I agree with that. Wait, where did you put Little Boiler?
Your opponent, like,
There we go. Okay. Mach-Gun, S tier. Garv 3, S tier, Windrak. Okay, so this is biased. Does that barrier just fly up barrier? Full of cuss, not your style. Fair. Where's Little Boiler? I don't see it anywhere. Oh, it's in Not My Style? Oh, and Anubis is there too. No, Anubis is bad. Anubis is just straight up a bad chip. Like, there's so many times when you can't hit someone with Anubis that it's not even worth going for. And there's so many ways to hit it that it kind of mitigates the point in using it. It's just really hard to land. I think that Bug Fix X tier, yeah, absolutely. 10k to 3, all of the Mach Guns. I think it depends, because you got to consider the code. But in general, yeah. Area Grab, yeah. Is that Grab Revenge? I would need to check the codes, but yeah, typically it's really good. All of the boomers are great. Bluestar, you're not considering the codes, my friend. You're not considering the codes. You gotta do the codes. The codes. You gotta find the codes. Alright, right, that was that. So I'm going to just... sure. Alright, let's just get to the rest of this then. Oh, whoops. So let's get back to it then. I was thinking about writing these all down beforehand, but I just kind of got lazy, so that's my bad. Alright, so Tank Cannon 1 is AG and R code, so that's great neutral coverage that you could chip charge. I would probably put that in C tier. It's very usable, and it hits back row if it doesn't hit, so you know it has like that. Tank Cannon 2 is kind of beat out by the rest of the options in LS and V code. Oh no wait, Tank Cannon 2 is the one that does 160. This only does 120, so I'll probably put it over here. For a neutral shape to only do 120 damage, it's kind of lackluster. And then Tank Cannon 3 does 200 damage, so... And it's B, P, and M code. I would say that that's A tier. Like, a high damage option that you could weigh whether or not to be charged is really valuable, especially in just so many situations. I'll put Fanfare in B tier. Primarily because it becomes it's available in asterisk code. I'm sorry, I'm getting lost in the music. Yeah, I shouldn't have picked this one. Oh no. Let's see, Discord confuses enemies. That actually keeps them from going invisible, so that's F tier. It's really bad. This is actually okay. But it's not a long period of time, plus they can always hit it in some cases. So Timpani is not as good as Fanfare, which makes you totally invincible. And then you're not running the one that makes you invincible, and you're not running the one that makes the opponent lock in place, so I don't know why you would blind them. It just seems like you're slightly inconveniencing them in comparison. V-Doll goes in C-Code tier. I love V-Doll, but it is primarily combo bait. Outside of being used for combo material, like, it loses a lot of its value. It comes in asterisk code, so you can take it with any code, which is also a plus. But it also has huge object end lag. It does create a panel, but it doesn't do much outside of that. You can hit it, and basically it'll deal that value of damage to your opponent. So ideally, if you can deal damage to your opponent and the item, then the opponent will take a lot of damage. It'll also hit them while they're invisible. Duh. Guardian. I'm in B tier. It is an object 1, so you can't pair it with other objects, but you can use the Guardian defensively in a lot of situations where it'll strike back at the opponent. Anubis, I'll put it in D tier. There's too many situations where Anubis can be killed or whatnot, and a lot of the time it just won't do enough damage to really make up for the fact that you're playing Anubis. Or even worse, you're playing Poison Pharaoh, and you're sitting on Anubis, and Poison Seeds in your hand that are just bricking you permanently. Recover 10 is bad, Recover 30 is bad, Recover 50 is bad, Recover 80 is bad, Recover 20 is bad, Recover 150? Let me check. Yeah, it's in a code, so that's bad. Let's see. Recover 200 comes in Z code, Q code, and I code. So if you wanted to get some healing options and you wanted to do a very aggressive Q code build, then you could beast charge the Recover 200 in a Gregor build. So I'll do you the favor of putting you in D tier. It's a very loose option as a recovery option, and you can also beast charge it. Ugh. And then Recover 300 is broken. You get it in G, O, and Y. I think it's one of the things that makes Y code one of the best ones. It's definitely an A tier because it just increases your health so much. And you could run 2 of them, so it's just 600 health just sitting there. Panel Grab? Panel Grab I'll put in C tier. It's kind of niche, but you could still beast charge it, you could still use it for area advantage or to deny area grabs. You know, just really good. Area grab, S tier. Area coverage is super important. Like, it's just one of the most important things in the game. Like, there's no denying it. These both come in asterisk code. Grab Banish, same S tier. It has a lot of really popular codes, B, M, and S. Grab Revenge has less aggressive codes, like I, Q, and Z. But those are also Giga codes. Not I, but Q and Z. So, like, you can see yourself having a lot of options to maybe pair this with, like, a double area grab or something. Just really good. Panel grab is going to go in decode. It's incredibly niche and not worth it, and the only reason you run it is to counter one other chip in the game. Get in. I'm just going to put this in F tier. I don't care how usable it is. No, wait, actually... There you go. Alright, on to the next one. Let's see. I don't remember which one's Sanctuary. I've seen a lot of people use Holy Panel, and honestly, I'm not sure. I think it kind of falls into the same situation as the rest of the C code chips, where they present a tool that a lot of people can use, and it's great because you can chip charge it. Or, well, not chip charge it, you can beast charge it. And I think the opportunity to do more or less damage and forcing the opponent to make a choice is definitely really good. On the adverse end of that, you have Sanctuary, which is definitely A code. There's so many options to destroy panels in this game that it's kind of hard to argue Sanctuary always being good, especially when you can only run one Sanctuary at all. It's just kind of situational, because there's a lot of times when your opponent might just totally get rid of your area with like an Element Man, or a Magnum, or an Elect Beast Charge Breath. Like, it's just not great. I hate to do my voice like this, but F tier. They're great combo potential, but that's all they represent. The fact that they can be destroyed by any wood chip completely destroys these, especially when you can move out of them. So, for example, if you move into a panel that says that you have to go into the left, the next panel that says you have to go to the left does not guarantee that you move to the left. You can move down out of it, so there's a lot of situations where you just have to set up something super exact in order to properly set that up. Let me turn this down some more. Slow gauge, S tier. Forcing your opponent to deal with you and your options is amazing. Fast gauge. Does it change the font color? Hold on. Anyways, oh god, what's worse? There we go. Alright, so now to actually talk about them without being totally biased for a second. Fast gauge is a really good method to force your opponent to use chips, and a lot of the time it'll result in them running out of chips because they only have so much time to combo. It typically favors Bluestar because they can operate in more scenarios because they have natural float shoes and air shoes. So it doesn't matter what state the arena's in. Full Cust, I'm just tired of it. It's a stall option specifically designed for dealing with beast out turns. It's kind of aimed at Gregor more because no one uses beast out offensively in Bluestar. In previous games, it was designed with the intent of you setting up with things like object panels or like environmental setup. But in BN6, it's more so just used as a way to annoy people. Like, Buster Up, A tier. Buster Bug builds are very good. There's like very little ways that you can go wrong with a Buster Bug build. And even better, you can just use it to cover like damage. Bug Fix, S tier. Being able to get rid of your bugs is really important. And it can result in less or more reduction of HP. So it's pretty much always worth a chip slot, even if it doesn't seem like it. I say Gametal Soul is C tier, because your opponent has to be in the column that you're aiming at in order to hit it. If Gametal Soul EX was on this list, then I would put it in S tier though. It can hit your opponent while they're visible and while they're in a barrier. So if you actually want to use Geddon in a cool way, then you would just use Gametal Soul. One of the things that... I mean, that's what people typically do, is they'll do Geddon, and then they'll just take like Gundel Force 3 and just kind of hit the opponent with it while they can't move. It's just kind of silly. If this is S tier... Barrier... I can see why he put it in S tier. The reason being is that you can TFC it to anything and odds are it'll block that hit, which is totally fair, but it doesn't account for multi-hitting chips, so I'll put it in D tier. Like, it's not so unconventional that it can never be used, and running it is troll. Next up, I believe we have Barrier 100. Barrier 100 actually comes in a code. And they're typically pretty defensive codes, so I'll put that in C tier at least. Barrier 200 though comes in K code, U code, and W code, which are very aggressive builds. So it can be a very effective means of like dealing with like tempo. So I'll put that in B code. Or B code? B tier. Like, all of these are kind of leveraged by how much you kind of get to use them. If your only choice for running a barrier is to like block a blast man, then I would say you just use a barrier, but like, I don't know. Bubble Wrap, D tier. There's so much elemental coverage in this game, and electric is one of the best elemental coverages. It's also one of the fastest and hardest options to deal with. So I think Bubble Wrap is definitely probably in the worst state it's been in Battle Network in a long time, even worse than BN3 when Flashman was being spammed. Life Aura... I'll put it in A tier. The only reason it's not going in S tier is because there's just so many situations to get rid of Life Aura. Depending on your build, you could make it harder for yourself to deal with Life Aura, but everyone has like wind coverage, and now that Northwind is no longer required to get rid of things like Life Aura, like, it's just so much easier to get rid of. There are situations in which you can stun your opponent mid-frame for Wind Wreck, which is what typically is done. And that's what I try to kind of aim for with my Life Auras, but you can still find a way to play through it. But like, it's just so easy to get rid of, and that's the reason why I'm going to put it in S tier. The reason why Invisible is in S tier is because this can extend your damage frames, this can make your opponent waste chips, or even better, it can make your opponent waste chips trying to get you out of Invis so that they can hit you with more chips. Mag Coil, D tier. It has some uses, like it can help you line up things like Delta Ray, Colonel Force, or Colonel Army, Death. Yeah. So if you have an object, you can summon a Colonel chip, and it'll shoot for a little bit. So it's basically a panel of kernel force from that panel. Element trap, D tier. It's a 200 damage chip that you can run in. Actually, can you run it in any code? Yeah, you can run it. It's 240 damage. So if your opponent uses an element that's not already present on the field, then it'll hit the opponent for that element. Honestly, it's not bad, but it bugs out on occasion, which is the only reason why it's in this tier, even though it's like such a good damaging option. Anti-Navi, I'll put it S tier. Mega chips are extremely limited, and most of them are coverage, so like things like Erase Cross or Element, or Erase Man, or Element Man. So, you know, it's just really good to be able to steal that, especially things like Judge Man, which are used to get area back. Like, you know, you just want to deal with it. Anti-damage, A tier. I think it's S tier. I think it's really good to get rid of chips, like hits in general. But there are builds where people just straight up don't run anti-damage, and I think that's totally fair, because there are things like the Barrier 200 that you can run in comparison. The only thing is that, like, if you don't have options to deal with those wind options, then that's fine. And Cursor is much more limited in its capacity than Wind is, because Cursor is the only cross in the game that does not deal its elemental coverage. So getting rid of an anti-damage or dealing damage through it isn't always an option. Yo-Yo. I'm not going to be considering... There are people who don't run Super Armor. Anti-Sword, S tier. Tengu lovers love him. Gregor players hate him. Anti-Sword is an amazing damage option. It does 3 hits of 100 damage, and it stops your opponent from hitting you with Sword Chip. So if you're running Sword coverage to deal with Tengu, then this will block that, and force your opponent to go slash cross or to use something else. Anti-recovery. This will go in C tier, even though like recovery is niche. You're going to see anti-recovery a lot more in my cards formats, or maybe less, because people like to run recoveries and kind of just stay healthy. The only problem with that is that even then people run chip heal, so like this might only reduce health by like 40 or something. White Capsule. This is combo potential. So it goes in C tier. I'm not going to put it in B tier because it doesn't have any offensive use on its own, and it has to be paired with another chip. Uninstall. B tier. Uninstall isn't a normal chip, and it can only be taken in so many codes, so it just makes all of the codes it's in better. It has to be paired with another chip, and it is generally pretty oppressive in mod cards format, but it is not as oppressive in a non-mod cards format. In general, I think it's a pretty unfun chip, but you can also dodge the chip that it's attached to because it has to be non-dimming, so it kind of limits its options a little bit. You know what? I'm being dumb. It should be A tier 100% of the time. Some people would probably say it's S tier, which I think is totally fair. In fact, I think Timber Ball should probably be A tier. No, because it has huge damage potential. Well, that's why, because it's not a guaranteed hit, right? No, but it is the highest damaging neutral element chip. Copy damage has no use. Getting some value, I like 15 trade games. Wait, hold on. Unusable. Unusable. You have access to attack plus 30, you run attack plus 30. Attack plus 30 is going to go in B tier. There's a lot of multi-hitting chips in this game, and a lot of them are damage coverage, or elemental coverage, so there's just chances to do huge amounts of damage. You can also put it on a lot of multi-hitting gigas to do a lot more damage. Navi plus 20, I'm going to put this in D tier. They basically did away with most multi-hitting Navis that hit more than 3 times, so there's not really as many times where you can really land that. Oh god, this is all out of order. Cannon, F tier, it's 40 damage. Color Point, I'm going to put it in D tier, or it's in F tier, because you can run Double Point. Speaking of Double Point, C tier. any chip where you have to give your opponent something in order to get more reward is pretty bad, honestly. So giving up advantage is probably one of the worst ways, especially if you're on your last column and your opponent uses area grid, making this chip not work in the first place. It does have the option for amazing damage builds, so like Fighter Plane, Hawaii Capsule, or like Base or Kernel Art Force, but you're not going to see it outside of that use, and that's why it's in C tier. It has combo potential, but it's generally really niche. C for combo. Fireburner, D tier, or actually C tier. It's only C tier because it has okay fire elemental coverage, it cracks panels like Bluestar said, and it comes in star code, so you don't have to worry about whatever code it comes in. Just good as a coverage option. Da 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 da. STNU, so amazing codes where you can get good fire coverage. So I'll put that in C tier as well, like even though it doesn't come in asterisk code. Fireburner 3 comes in C, D, and E code. Kind of bad. I'll leave it in C tier. Not because it's in C code, but because it does have an elemental coverage option, and 150 is an okay damage type. Plus cracking panels, a lot of people don't run float shoes, so you know, there's that. Put Wide Shot in D. Even though they've nerfed Wide Shot so much, it only comes in 3 codes and it doesn't come as a star code. It does hit all 3 panels, but it's blocked by objects, or well, really anything. So there's not always a chance of it decrossing. You're literally only running it to decross, essentially, because like it also comes in P code, the freeze code format. It comes in R code, which is also a freeze code, but you can also run it uninstall. It also has a large windup, so odds are if you see your opponent pulling out to the wide shot buster, then you can probably react to it. Q code doesn't exist for this. Train Arrow 1, F code. It doesn't stop your opponent from moving in its 30 damage. Even if you chip charge it, it's doing nothing. Train Arrow 2 is in a great code, which makes it even worse because you're never going to run it because it's only 40 damage. Train Arrow 3, you can actually run in some freeze builds because it comes in S code, which actually moves it all the way up to C tier, because it now has a decent way to land on the opponent and coverage. There is the chance that the opponent is mid-movement, so they move to another panel while the train arrow is still firing in that row. So they might move out of the way, but at least it's actually usable now. Bubble Star... Okay, this is really hard because Bubble Star is really broken. B, E, and T code. Like, that's great coverage, so I'm going to put that in B tier. C, L, and V, that is also going to go in B tier. Great coverage and access to... Actually, you know what? V and L have some of the strongest electric chips in the game. So I'm going to say Bubble Star 2 is A tier. And then Bubble Star 3, like, has access to literally like Dull Thunder 3, like, so there's no contest. There's no contest. It's A tier. Actually, I'm sorry, it's S tier. With Spout Cross, you can chip charge this to do 200 water damage. It traps them in a bubble, and you can land Dull Thunder 3, which will do like 360 damage, ensuring a fucking 560 damage combo. Like, Bubble Star 3 is also the fastest of the Bubble Stars, which can make it really hard to react to. And you're also not really stuck in the pose where you throw it that long, so you know, there's that. Thunder, I would say this is C tier. A lot of people don't expect Thunder, and it can be used as a zoning tool. High Cannon, not worth the damage, plus M Cannon comes in F tier. I'm gonna put M Cannon in D tier. If it's not a charge shot and it's not something that you can just use freely, like it's pretty bad. There is the idea that you can chip charge it, but again, there's Tank Cannon 3, which does more damage and can also hit the back row, and there's 9 codes Tank Cannon comes in, so there's no point in running M Cannon. But it's still not F tier because it can at least do damage. Adult Thunder 1 comes in A, E, and Q code. I would say D tier. These codes aren't really great for Dull Thunder, even though it's a great damage shape that comes out relatively quickly. But it doesn't have the combo potential it has in some other codes. Like Dull Thunder 2 comes in C, L, and P code, so it's going to do significantly more damage and have more options. So that's going to go up to B tier because it can be comboed with some stuff. And then Dull Thunder 3, it comes to the B, R, and the V code. Like, we talked about that earlier. Dull Thunder 3 is just so good. Like, it's just such a good chip. It's, like, not even funny. Yeah. Blah, I'm alive. Okay, what was I doing? Light Pulse. Comes in broken codes, J, L, and S code. Like, it's obviously a B tier chip. Like, it stuns the opponent in a cone, so it'll hit the first panel in front of it, and then it'll spread out. Just really good chip. Light Pulse 2, kind of in the same realm, but it comes in even better codes. Easily an A tier chip. It'll actually drag the opponent, which dragging is one of the strongest mechanics introduced in BN6, where the opponent will be moving and they're kind of locked for a little bit where they can't move, so it presents a major ability to hit the opponent there. Light Pulse 3 comes in really good codes and is part of a lot of dangerous PAs. I'm actually going to put it in B code because you can only run so many of them. It does give the opponent HP bug, but it doesn't present as much like follow-up as the other two. So if I could make like a C.5 tier, like it would probably be there. Like, it's still carried by the codes it's in. Like, it's just really good. Corn Shot. Well, I feel like if I actually gave my true opinion about these chips, the GP would burn me alive, so... that's exactly what I'm going to do. So basically how Corn Shot works is it'll aim down the row and it'll hit where the opponent is. If I remember right, I think. I don't... Fine. Oh, whoops. Ah! For that reason, I'm not even going to bother putting these in here. To make it simpler for anyone who's never used Corn Shot before, it's a very hard chip to land, and it creates a grass panel. It can also be used in the PA Corn Fiesta, which hits a bunch. But it generally doesn't do that much damage. Risky Honey A1 would probably be in A tier. It comes in B, G, and S code, and it essentially works like a shield, but it actually will punish the opponent more for multi-hitting chips. And as long as it's not in freeze time, then it'll produce Bs for every single one. So it can be great combo potential for Tomahawk Soul, or it could be great combo potential in general. Same thing with Risky Honey 2. And 3, honestly, all of them just have great code coverages. And all of them are a great defensive tool. This is probably one of the only chips I'm going to put in all 3 codes, but just let me check 3. Yeah, like AD and M code, CR and V code, B, G, and S, like, they're just really, really good codes. Like, there's very little you could say about Risky Honey that doesn't just suggest that they're amazing. Ringlog IKP code is a wood coverage chip, but these are kind of codes that already have wood coverage, or they're not great, so I'm actually going to put it in F tier. Ringlog 2 is a lot better. It's wood coverage for E code, Q code, and Z code. I would put that in C tier. Finally, Ringlog 3 comes in F and W code. I think this is actually a little weaker because while it's wood coverage for F code, N code and W code both have access to really good wood coverage already, so I think I'm going to put it in D tier. Because the problem with Ringlogs is that they're never going to do that much damage, but they have a wide area of effect, so there's a chance that it'll hit your opponent and decross them, but it's never going to do that much damage. Sorry, little shrubby buddy. Iron Shell 1 comes in some decent codes, like K code, L code, and J code. It does come out really quickly, but it's low damage. And the codes it is in kind of already have better options, which make it difficult to run. Iron Shell 2 comes in C, D, and E code, which is way better, just wider coverage. A base 100 damage is okay for, like, a chip. You still have to account for the fact that Golem Hit exists, but you could run it if you wanted to. I would probably put this in D still, because, like, it's still low damage. You're running it for the offhand that your opponent is running something that can be decrossed, and then Iron Shell 3 is going to be the same. Like, M code already has, like, air hockey, L code has some great decross options, N code, same thing. The Iron Shells just don't make enough of an impact to really justify playing them, honestly, which is kind of sad. Orahead 3-1 though, like, already doing way more damage and already being faster than the Iron Shell chips, comes in B, C, and D code. I would say that's a C tier. It's a really fast, and it does extra damage if you have an aura. Orahead 2 comes in D, E, and F code, so you could probably run it for the same way. Oh wait, I should see what code's in. F, G, and H, it's not bad. It's 170 damage. And there's not necessarily greater options. The only other option would be to run Groundman SP. But if you need to use your Mega Slots for something else, then I can see it just being an okay C tier option. Air Shot, D tier. It's counter hit, so it's not unusable, and it's also wind, so we could get rid of auras. It's also one of the fastest chips in the game, so it does have some application. The Air Hockey PA is one of the hardest PAs to land in the game. And you can't really pair it with anything besides maybe an area grab. So, you know, it's kind of just hard to land. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Drill Arm C tier. If you actually uninstall your opponent in G code, you can use Drill Arm on the opponent. And because it's multi-hitting, you can actually do multiples of damage. I think it's about 3 hits. So you can get about 210 damage on the opponent breaking. And pin them to the back row, so you can do something like Lance afterwards, or you can do something else, I don't know. In general, Drill Arm can also push the opponent back, so if you're trying to set up area grabs, you can actually Drill Arm the opponent and then area grab, assuming that they don't move around you. Tornado is super gimmicky, and I'm going to put it in the get in as bad as you should feel bad, because a lot of the time, most Tornado builds I see are used with that. But let me check something. I'm just gonna put decode. Why not? You could use it with air spin to extend the timer on it, but that's also why we have static. The problem with static is that if you use bug fix, you reduce the number of tornadoes it produces because it's based on the number of bugs you have currently. So if you use bug fix and you no longer have bug, static will only produce a single tornado. But you can actually reg static instead of wind rack, and you can hit your opponent with a decross on their erase cross early if they go for that early. So that's something you could do. You can actually also put uninstall on it, and with all the number of tornadoes, you can actually land some pretty cool stuff. Mach-Gun 1, I would say, is S tier. It gets rid of anti-damage, and it also decrosses dust. So no more dust stall, thank God. It also comes in star code, so that's really useful. Mach-Gun 2 comes in E, G, and S code, which are great coverage codes and very powerful codes in general. So I would say that's S tier, just to get rid of more defensive utility. And then we have Mach-Gun 3 for speed for BF and M code, which are some of the best offensive codes in the game. So we're gonna put that there. Because you gotta consider like how you're running these in your builds when you're looking at the tier. So like, while some of these might be runnable, they're incredibly niche when compared to certain counterparts and how they interact with their own build, right? And while some stuff in here in the C tier might be more centric to their own builds, it's just that kind of thing, right? Like, it's centric to their own builds. Even Boiler Kettle can have builds and it can land and do some damage, but it's not necessarily great. You can actually, if you have a Light Cross, you can chip charge it and make it stun the opponent. So you can actually have an AoE stun that hits the opponent. It also comes in OP and V code, so you can actually use it as setup for Super Vulcan. Yeah. Throwables in general are really bad. Vulcan's really bad. Yeah, okay. Windwreck is S tier. It's both combo potential and it gets rid of auras. Flash Bomb 1, actually another eco chip. The reason why is because it becomes in star code and it counters invis, which there's not a lot of chips in the game that do that. It lowers the amount of time that your opponent can spend defending, and it's just really good. Flash Bomb 2 actually comes in J, K, and R code, which is really good, but I'm going to place it in B tier. And the reason why is because you can run it in less builds, and these are more offensive builds. So, like, for example, like, Flash Bomb 1 is star code, so you can run it in literally anything. But Flash Bomb 2 is only 30 more damage, and it does essentially the same thing, right? So you can Beast Charge Flash Bomb 1 in any build, or you can use it to stop your opponent from being stunned. It has application there, and it's not necessarily related to the damage it does. So just adding the damage factor to it isn't enough. Flash Bomb 3 comes in HP and S code, and I suppose in an ice build it might make it a little better, but that's still only going to be in B code or B rank. I should just stop pretending and just call it that. Bulk Bomb. This is one of the chips with the highest end lag of the game. It's going to go in D tier. Well, you can set it up and have it hit the opponent. A lot of the fire chips in the game either auto-lock on your opponent, or they move in a row, or they hit the opponent's entire area. So odds are your opponent will be invisible by the time you get the Black Bomb to go off. Bug Bomb. You can bug your opponent. It has application. Grass Seed. Grass Seed actually doesn't have that much application. It can set up for fire damage. But it can also give your opponent regen. You also got to consider the fact that people are running things like Sanctuary and such. But you can also just run Element Man instead if you want to make it grass. Ice Seed I would actually put in A tier. Most people in the game don't run float shoes, and if your opponent feels forced to switch to Tengu or Beast out in order to make up for it, then that means you're making your opponent use resources, and you can actually play off of that. Poison Seed, I will put in C tier. Like I said, most people don't run float shoes, but your opponent can still play around it. So it kind of just goes in the combo potential folder. I feel like I don't need to explain myself with these. Double hero. Also, you could fling them with, or you could fling this. So this would be D tier. Fire Sword is a great grass coverage option that you can fling at your opponent, and in an aggressive Felzar build, you can pull your opponent back and use fire on them. Aqua Sword is less useful because there are ranged freeze options in the game, and you're never really going to rely on that as much, so that'll go to D tier. Elect Sword is actually going to go all the way up to A tier. Not only is it a great offensive and electric option, you also stun the opponent, which can set up for other stuff. So you're not only getting water and sword coverage, but you're also dealing like 140 damage. Oh, what did I just do? I just grabbed something. I can't tell. I actually can't tell what I moved. No. I think I just moved something, but then it's O tier, so I think I'm fine. Okay. Bamboo Sword, again, same thing. I would actually put it in... I'd actually put it in B tier because it doesn't stun the opponent, but it doesn't make them flashing. It's wood and sword coverage, so it could actually do a lot of damage to Electros's trying to sit in the back row. Step Sword, F tier, very few situations in which you can use it. Variable Sword is always a combo potential card, so you're going to be seeing that in the C tier, where if you could use it more effectively and you have setup for it, like it's really good, but if you don't have setup for it, and or your opponent sees it coming, then it's not going to do as good. Same with Moonblade, honestly. Murabasa is going to go to B tier. It's really easy to kind of dodge Murabasa because it always... You're only going to really get hit by it if you're paralyzed or you're just not moving. You could also move into it potentially, but while it does have huge damage potential, it is one of the shortest range chips in the game that does damage in that potential. It also only comes in one code, so you can't exactly pair it up too much with other chips. Magnetic Sword's bad. It only hits stunned enemies with 200 damage, so it's just easier to run another chip. Element Sword's a bit better. I'm going to put this in C tier. The reason why is because a lot of people run things like Ice Seed, Poison Seed. Well, I guess it would just be Ice Seed. So, and with the way the fields change, like if your opponent uses Element Man Grass, you can hit your opponent for essentially a free 220 damage as long as they're staying on the panel. It also comes in aggressive codes like JM and U. Assassin Sword, kind of the same niche. You kind of use it to hit the opponent, and, you know, kind of just high damage combo potential. Disgusting chip. There's way better chip options. Actually, let me check. The red one? Okay. Alright, so let me explain myself. So typically when you use Crack Shot, it gets rid of the one panel in front of you. The other two Crack Shot chips either send the panel after it ahead towards your opponent, or it'll crack it if your opponent is standing on it. and the other will crack the entire column instead of just the panel right in front of you. And cracking the entire panel in front of you is okay, especially since it's asterisk code. It doesn't make it a great option, and that's why it's a D code. Super Vulcan is A tier. Has a lot of combo potential, and even if you're not running White Capsule, you can still use it with Electros. The reason why it's not an S code is because it's not coverage, and it has a high potential for failure. Reflect 1, F tier. Reflect 2, F tier. The only reason these two are F tier is because you could run Reflect 3, which I will put in B tier. Your opponent can predict it, and it's got a big sign on it once it's up, but it's a great defensive tool, and it can get rid of life aura if you're dealing with a Buster matchup. Wave Arm 1, Wave Arm 2, just kind of high damage, but they don't really do anything. I say high damage, they're actually 120, 160, which means like there's just way better options you can run. You could run M Cannon and it would do more damage. Sandworm as well, it has to be behind your opponent, and your opponent has to like not move into it. Not to mention that it's code locked and it only goes up to 170 damage. So that's kind of what we got set up here. I hope everyone enjoyed. Oh my gosh. That was kind of fun. Oh my god, I was rambling for so long. But yeah, that was kind of my list. I know I moved something. Was that what I moved? Huh. That doesn't seem right, but whatever. But yeah, go and try to tell other BN content creators that you enjoy to like take a crack at this list, because honestly it was a lot of fun. Looking at how competitive and viable the chips are was just really fun in general. I think like this is like certainly helpful, like for helping people like kind of determine what they want to see in the format. Because this column is like the chips you see most in the game, right? Like S to C tier, these are the chips you see most often in the game. And there's a reason for that. And I was glad that we could talk about those reasons, because honestly, it was so much fun kind of going through why each of them are kind of in their own tier. But yeah, I would say at your favorite being content creator with this, have them react to this and then do their own and then pass it along for centuries to come, or just do it on your own. I'll link it down below and it'll be lots of fun. Alright, I hope everyone has a nice day, and remember to have fun.